This is a 2022 Land Rover Range Rover Sport HSE Dynamic P525, and that is a mouthful of a name that Land Rover has given this luxury SUV. And today I'm going to be bringing you a review of this Range Rover. So let's hop right into the video. Now, as for the engine powering this beast, this is a 5-liter supercharged V8, makes 518 horsepower, 461 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, and of course, the Range Rover Sport is all-wheel drive. Now, what's crazy is actually not how fuel efficient this car is, but how much range it gets. On the top end, you can get almost 610 miles of range with its large gas tank paired with the roughly 22 miles per gallon you get on the highway. It's definitely an interesting engine, and it is really fun, and it sounds really good. You know how it sounds if you watched our 0 to 60 video and our quarter-mile video of this car, but I will show you what it sounds like right now. Now, there are other engine options. This engine is actually also in the SVR. It's tuned up a little more to make around 575 horsepower if you get the SVR model of this car, but this one sits right below the SVR at P525. Sadly, we don't get that crazy supercharged V8 in there, but this one still makes a bunch of power and is decently quick. In our 0 to 60 video, we did about 4.66 seconds at its quickest, which is still not bad for a SUV that weighs 5,100 pounds. Now, since the Range Rover Sport is capable of going off-road and has plenty of off-road drive modes in it, let's talk about some off-road numbers. This has 8.4 inches of ground clearance, has an approach angle of around 26 degrees and a departure angle of 26.2 degrees. So the Range Rover is definitely capable of going off-road, and in fact it has air suspension that will raise and lower it, and one of those suspension settings is an off-road height that, weirdly enough, you can drive in that setting on the road. I don't recommend it, but you know, I guess some people would. All right, now moving on to the cargo space of this car. Now, Range Rover Sports do come with the option to have kick sensors in place to open the rear. This one did not come with that option. Now, as for the cargo in the back, with the second row folded up, you get 27.5 cubic feet of cargo space, and with that down, you get 59.5 cubic feet of cargo space. Now, when I was looking through the options list on this car, you can option a third row. I don't know how comfortable that would be, but I'm assuming not. So now if you come over here, look at this. This is a really cool, this is part of that air suspension system I was talking about earlier, as you can actually raise and lower the car from the back. That way you can put heavier objects in without having to strain yourself. The Range Rover Sport's got you covered. All right, now when it comes to the general exterior appearance of the Range Rover Sport, I actually think this is the best foreign SUV when it comes to looks on the market. I've always loved the look of the Range Rover Sport, and I continue to love it till this day, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it for 2023, just because of the refresh that happened to the full-sized Range Rover in 2022 or 2023. I don't know, they're about a year ahead when it comes to their models. But anyways, on the outside, this one does have that black accent package on it, and you can tell that by looking at all the black accents, especially around the windows right here, the little side fins here, and the hood vents on the hood. Now here you have these great looking 21-inch wheels with these massive red brake calipers right here that probably take up nearly the entire diameter of the wheel there. Like I said, this is in its most squat position right now with that air suspension. It can be lifted to be taller. My first impression when I walked up to this car was, really, it's that small and it's that short, but once you do get into it and it gets up on its air suspension, it does get quite a bit taller than this. You have these black mirrors right here. They are pretty large. This one does have the driver assistance package and everything, so it does have blind spot monitoring. Gas tank is easy to get into. LED taillights, which look really good, and more black accents on the back with these dual exhausts. I already showed you the engine noise of this car, which is pretty incredible for an SUV, and it's not even the SVR. So if you're looking to save a little money, you can still get that sporty exhaust sound. Here's your P525 HSE badge right there. Who doesn't love to see that? And that's about it for the exterior. I, again, really like the look of the exterior of this car. I think it's pretty good, you know. Who can hate a Range Rover? Now moving on to the interior, I want to start off with the things that were optioned on this car. This one has the heated steering wheel, of course. That is a staple need in a luxury SUV. It also has the Meridian Signature sound system. Now this sound system is about second to the Bang & Olufsen sound system in the Q8, but other than that, it is one of the best sounding systems I've ever heard in a car. On top of that, you have heated and cooled front seats, and in the back you have heated rear seats. Now you can get quad zone climate control in the Range Rover Sport. This one does not have it, and with that quad zone climate control you can get heated and cooled rear seats. Now this one also has the heads-up display, which can be configured through the gauge cluster, its position, and the information it is showing right now. I have it showing the gear we're in, which is of course park, the speed limit, and our current speed. I've always liked the heads-up display. I think it's a crucial part, especially when the SUV you're buying is $100,000. Now on top of that, and this is probably the coolest part, is when you open the center console, you can actually open this little compartment right here, and you have a refrigerator. Currently, we are refrigerating a cord because we had nowhere else to put it. Now, I do not recommend trying to make warm things cold in this because it's really not built for that. It's more for keeping cold things cold instead of cooling things down. Now, moving on to the general styling of the interior and the materials, I do like this two-tone leather color scheme. It is really cool looking, like how it's on the armrests, on the seats. The leather in here is super soft everywhere you touch it. The contrast stitching is beautiful. You have this suede velvet feeling material right here. The door is soft on the armrest, and the leather even extends all the way down to your little cargo bins at the bottom of the door. Leather around your shift knob, and then you have this really cool aluminum piece surrounding the steering wheel, the circumference of it, that I really like, with the aluminum shift paddles, of course, which you really won't be needing to use because that ZF8 speed is pretty intelligent. Now, when it comes to technology in here, it gets even better. You have 3 screens, including a digital gauge cluster, and 2 screens right here that are touchscreen. Everything you want to do with the climate control, the navigation, the drive modes can be done through this bottom screen right here. Up here is your navigation, your media, and your phone settings, all your Bluetooth settings and everything like that. Now let's talk about drive modes. I did mention earlier that this was off-road capable, and it is. All you have to do is press this little thing right here, this little knob that raises up and takes it out of auto mode, and then you can go ahead and go through your drive modes. Now, the first 3 are pretty common. You have right here, you have dynamic, eco, and comfort. Dynamic's going to be more sporty. Eco, of course, is going to save gas, because you plan on saving gas when you go out and buy a supercharged 5-liter V8. And then comfort mode, which is basically just normal. But then you have snow and slippery off to the side. And then you have more of mud and ruts, then you sand, and then rock crawl. Please don't rock crawl your $100,000 Range Rover Sport. It wasn't really built to do that. They're just giving you the option because, again, you spent $100,000 on an SUV like this. Even though I think that price tag's fair, don't get me wrong, you probably shouldn't off-road and rock crawl in your Range Rover Sport. At least not rock crawl, maybe off-road. I would take it off-road. I would definitely take it off-road, just not rock crawling. Anyways, other than that, you can see your seat heating and cooling right here, and you can actually select to cool only your bottom, heat only your bottom, or cool or heat only your back. Climate controls over to the far left, where you can control the direction of the air. More expensive Range Rovers, like I said, have quad zone climate control, and then you have all your settings over here, and you can change, and then vehicle settings back there. Now, up on this top screen, like I said, you have your navigation system, which the navigation system in this car is pretty lackluster compared to its German competitors, especially Audi, where you can pay for this Google Maps subscription, which can put that basically everywhere in your car, and BMW's is better, and so is Mercedes, frankly, but it works, and you can see it in your gauge cluster, like full on, which is really nice. Speaking of the gauge cluster, it's pretty customizable. You can show 1 gauge, 2 gauges, your full map. You can change the style of the gauges. I think the gauge cluster is really cool. Now, like I said, we've gone over this. These 2 buttons right here change your air suspension settings, so you can raise or lower it using these buttons. And yeah, that's about it for the front seats. This one also has a moon roof, which, I mean, I keep it shut most of the time, especially in Vegas when it gets really hot. But, you know, depending on where you live, you might like it open. All right, now moving on to the back seats. Pretty comfortable back here. In fact, this is more comfortable than I remember it being. I've been in these sports before, but this is a lot more comfortable than I remember. The leather is super soft. I just noticed that. But yeah, anyways, the back seats materials are just as nice back here. You do have some like cheaper feeling plastics, sadly. But like I said, this one has the heated seats in the rear with the climate vents right here, so your rear seat passengers don't complain. A 5-volt USB right there and another 5-volt USB again, so your passengers don't complain, and a 12-volt socket. What I think is nice is, even though this is cheap plastic that is probably worth about $1, they do give you a nice aluminum piece on the end. Decent storage back here, back seat pockets. Now you may notice something at the bottom of the lock buttons right there, and that is actually your rear seat blind spot monitors. Now, the rear seat blind spot monitors are so that your rear seat passengers can see when there are cars passing on either side, so they don't step out of the car and get absolutely creamed, and so you don't have to put a $20,000 door back on your Range Rover. The people will know when there is a car passing yours. And of course, you do have a center armrest right here, which is actually really nice feeling, covered in leather, though the leather looks like it's kind of stretching, which is a little weird. I don't remember it supposed to look like that, but whatever. Storage space right here, because that's going to do anything, and then 2 cup holders here, but you know, it does look mighty nice. All right, so driving the Range Rover Sport HSE Dynamic P525. Now, even though this has the supercharged 5-liter V8, I think the driving experience of at least this car and the Range Rover Sport model overall, other than the SVR, is more about luxury and comfort than it is about sportiness. Now, I don't have the balls to take this off-road because it's not my car and I'm not paying for a single scratch that gets put on it, but as for on the road, it actually is a pretty sublime ride. I love driving this car. The steering is fairly light and easy to get used to. Now, I had an issue getting used to the gas pedal at first because you kind of have to get into it to get it to go, especially if you're in eco mode. Do not expect to be going anywhere quickly in eco mode in this vehicle. You will not. The air suspension does a really good job, though, of picking up and dampening all of the bumps and potholes on the road, so you don't really have to deal with the harsh things you would have to deal with on normal suspension setups. The air suspension handles a lot of that. But when you do need to get around a corner and go fast, it is extremely quick for an SUV. Now, I do know that the German counterparts do have slightly quicker sport SUVs out there, but you know, this one, even though, you know, 4.66 isn't the best out there for this class of vehicle, it's still pretty good, and that price tag is really carried by the amount of luxury you get on the interior. I love the screens. They're easy to operate. The infotainment system can be a little laggy at times, and like I said, the navigation system isn't the best. I love the digital gauge cluster, though. It shows tons of information. The seats are nice and comfortable. The armrests, these, you know, this seems like such like an overthought or an oversight, but I actually really like these because it gives you a place to put your arm while you're driving the car. So driving one of these, in my opinion, is more about the experience of luxury than it is the experience of sportiness. And I think that's kind of Land Rover's whole goal with the Range Rover Sport. It's not faster than an X6M if you get the SVR. It's not faster than a GLE 63, and it's not faster than an RSQ8. But I can tell you what, the ride most likely is, and I can tell you that the Q8 did not ride nearly as nice as this car does, and the Q8's interior was not as high quality as the interior of this one is. So overall, for what I think the car's goal was, I think it did a really good job of achieving that. Now, a $100,000 price tag is pricey, and it's a lot of people want to get into a Range Rover Sport because there's a lot of people who like these cars, and that's why you see so many old ones getting picked up on the used market. But $100,000 is pricey. Now, do I think it's worth it or not? It's up to the discretion of you guys and whoever's buying these cars, but I think I would be comfortable paying $100,000 new, because I know that $100,000 new is a lot different than $100,000 used right now. So if I was spending $100,000 new, you know, with the way things are and cars appreciating and not depreciating, maybe it would be an okay purchase. But for a lot of people, you know, it just is not worth it. It doesn't offer everything that you'd want, because that's the third of a price of a home back in 2019. So overall, I really do like this SUV. Range Rover Land Rover did a really good job of making it an excellent place to be. And that is Britain's gas-guzzling mid-sized SUV that gets absolutely awful gas mileage, but provides you an amazing driving experience. Honestly, if I had the money to buy this car right here, I probably would, because I have always loved Range Rovers and everything they have stood for and all of their technology. So yeah, if you guys liked the video, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more from us, make sure you subscribe. There is a 0 to 60 and quarter-mile test video of this car and a driving POV if you want to see what it's like to get behind the wheel of one of these SUVs. So anyways, guys, I will see you all in the next video.